Hi. I'm still going through the effects of a major hangover, so until I completely recover, I thought it would be a good idea to recap one of my favorite Netflix series. If you haven't already guessed yet, look in the title of the video and you'll see. Yep, it's The Dragon Prince. If you're unfamiliar with what The Dragon Prince is, let me briefly explain. The series was created by Justin Richmond and Aaron Ahas, the latter of which was the head writer for Avatar, the cartoon, not the one with the blue cat people. Big difference. Part of what makes the series so good in my eyes is the music, which was composed by a guy named Frederick, I want to say, Feedman? Or is it Weidman? Weedman? Brief aside, I was originally going to do this completely plastered, but then I realized just how much of a bad idea that was. Here's a sample of me actually drunk recording this.
Ed shows up, and by flashing bait, they manage to run away because, again, Ed shows bait, who does a say hello to my little
Imagine 30 minutes of that, and you'll begin to see why I did this sober. Regardless, I have my $5 built-in microphone that probably sounds like shit. I have too much time on my hands for being an unemployed bum. Without further ado, let's get into it. The series opens with some narration and exposition about the world of Zadia.
Long ago, Zadia was one land.
And everything changed when the Fire Nation attacked.
Long story short, there's stuff about dark magic, ethnic cleansing, a forever war, yada yada. Lots of good stuff for a TV series rated for 7-year-olds. This introduces the audience to the main story and its characters. The male lead is Callum, voiced by Jack DeSena, who voiced Sokka in The Last Airbender.
Nothing's quiet here.
He is incredibly nerdy, introverted, and autistic. Artistic. Well, yeah, he probably has autism too, judging by the way he acts, but that's besides the point. Then there's his little brother, Ezrin, who's the crown prince of Katalis, who, as we learn later, talks to animals. Then we have Rayla, the main female lead, who, just between you and me, has completely ruined my taste in women. Thanks, Scotland. She is an absolute badass who suffers from the same flaw that most teenagers suffer from. Bottled up emotions.
I'm not good enough, and I never will be.
Then we got the main villain for the first arc, Lord Viren, High Mage of Katalis, voiced by Jason Simpson. Absolute goats. There's Viren's son, Soren, who is head of the Crown Guard and has the personality of a golden retriever. King Harrow, who is the father to Ezrin and Callum. Finally, there's Claudia, who is Soren's sister, Viren's daughter, and you know all those weird schizo posts on Twitter about people wanting a hot goth GF? Yeah, well, she fits that archetype. And before we move on, yes, the animation is shoddy. I know it looks like Baby's first PowerPoint presentation, but apparently that's what the writers were going with, and they realized later that it didn't work out. So for the time being, we're stuck with it. Anyway, so back to the plot. Viren finds out about the assassination attempt on the king, and he goes to warn him.
Assassins. We believe they're moon shadow elves.
Turns out this is all because they killed the Dragon King a few months ago and stole his egg or destroyed it, whatever, I don't know. To make sure that his kids don't get killed in the process, the king says to his boys, hey, you know that winter lodge that we leave empty for 9 months out of the year? Yeah, well, you're going to it.
Get the hell out!
Afterwards, the elven assassins come together in a circle and have some weird ceremony thing. Unfortunately, they immediately find out that Rayla didn't kill that guy from the first scene, so now she looks like an ass and a liar.
You lied to me.
For being a no-good liar, Rayla is sent to timeout by her adopted uncle, Runan. He tells her,
If we're not back by sunrise, go home.
but she decides, nah, I'ma do my own thing, and Naruto runs to the castle. Brief aside, a defining feature of her character arc is supposed to be that she's this uber-talented assassin, but when the moment of truth comes, she can't get the job done. To me, this just translates to her being the TDP equivalent of the LA Dodgers. While this is happening, Callum sees Claudia use a primal stone to do magic, and it ignites his passion for magic like trains do for autistic people. Afterwards, the king, who senses his time is coming to an end, gives his stepson a letter, while Rayla sneaks into the castle.
You know you can't sneak up on me.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is your leading couple. Their first meeting is only slightly less awkward than my parents' first meeting back in the 90s. Ella says she's looking for someone, Callum runs away, she gives chase, and this all happens until Ezrin shows up behind a painting, shows bait, flashbangs them, and they hide. Meanwhile, the king and Viren have some weird debate over whether dark magic is useful or not, or whether it's ethical or not. It's stupid, it wastes time, and nothing gets done. So basically every debate on the internet. Underneath the castle, Ezrin does some weird puzzle thing to get into Viren's secret chamber. They reveal that the egg is alive, cut to black, credits roll. At the start of the next episode, we find out that Claudia followed them, nearly fries them with fulminus, but Callum stops her from doing that. He chains her up to the wall, so when she can't chase after them, she sends dogs instead. The dogs chase them, Callum uses the Primal Stone to send them away, and he fanboys over being able to cast a spell. It's kind of like that "You're a wizard, Harry" joke from Harry Potter. Meanwhile, Harrow and Viren have yet another disagreement.
You will know your place.
And where exactly is that place?
Right here. On your knees.
A few fight scenes later, the group decides to venture out and deliver the egg on their own. Also, this happens.
Do you think Dad will be okay?
He has the finest guards in the kingdom defending him.
Yeah. Yeah, of course.
Finally, it's revealed that Runan is the only surviving assassin, and he gets captured. The next episode opens with a funeral pyre, which is very impressive given it came like 10 minutes after he died, so good work on the organizers. The next morning, Rayla gives a bunch of exposition on each primal source.
The sun, the moon, the stars, the air, the ocean, and...
The sky.
yes.
Seeing these symbols, Callum remembers he's got this weird cube thing at the Banther Lodge. Obviously, Rayla is a bit reticent towards this, but Callum insists that they gotta go get his cube. Meanwhile, at the Lodge, they run into their Aunt Amaya, who is in the running for quite possibly the most obviously gay character in all of fiction. Do you really think this guy likes guys? No, this guy likes girls. And by this guy, I mean this girl. This girl likes girls. Once they're all reacquainted, she tells the boys of the assassins and where they came from.
General, the castle is under threat. Assassins have infiltrated the kingdom. Moonshadow elves.
The worst kind.
Meanwhile, while Rayla is looking for the cube, she runs into Aunt Amaya. There's a bunch of fight scenes. There's another Scarface joke where Bait flashbangs them. They escape. After they make their escape, Aunt Amaya calls on Corvus, who is another character and a tracker by profession. Meanwhile, back in Katalis, Viren's making some sort of speech, tries to usurp power, but then Amaya arrives and says, "Stop the coronation. The princes are alive. You usurping piece of shit." Shortly thereafter, Viren does a slightly less psychopathic version of a glow-up than influencers. At the same time, Rayla tries to take off her little armband thing, but unfortunately it's harder to take off than those hotel wristbands you get when visiting a resort. In the throne room, Viren and Amaya have an argument over what to do next. Amaya insists that the boys should return home before a new king is installed, whereas Viren, in his usual dictatory ways, wants to take power for himself. Shortly thereafter, Amaya goes to her sister's memorial site where she's joined by Viren. They eventually agree on sending a search party for the boys, consisting of Claudia and Soren. However, knowing that something will go wrong if those two are in charge, Amaya says that Commander Gren, her red-headed translator, is to lead the expedition. Back to Team Zim. In an effort to get her mind off of things, Callum asks Rayla about Zadia and what it's like. And I have to admit, this makes a really sweet moment between the two of them.
It must be so weird that everywhere you look, there's magic.
It's not weird. In Zadia, magic is pretty much in everything. It's no different from saying everywhere you look, there's nature. It's just part of the vibrance or spirit of things, you know?
I can't wait to see that. Sounds incredible.
Yeah, it is.
See, it's working, right? Don't you feel a little better?
Maybe so.
And boom, we have our first bona fide Rayla moment. The vibes begin. Unfortunately, they're immediately killed when she talks about her parents.
What are your parents like?
They're dead.
Eventually, they hit some rapids, Bait goes overboard, and then there's this battle with a huge fish that tries to eat Bait, but Callum ends up frying it and a bunch of other fish with the first half of the fulminous spell. Back on land, Rayla trauma dumps about how her parents aren't dead, but she wishes they were because they abandoned their post or something. Honestly, if she wasn't a teenage girl, this might actually be shocking. I mean, come on, what teenage girl hasn't wished that their parents were dead at least once? Like, dude, you're not special. Back in Katalis, Commander Grant is taken off the mission by Viren, who is imprisoning him and embracing his inner dictator. At the beginning of the next episode, there's a fight between Rayla and Corvus that lasts a few minutes and has some banter back and forth. Meanwhile, Viren tells his son, "Hey, you know those guys that you've known almost your entire life and look upon like little brothers? You should kill them." A few moments later, Viren gives his daughter some also good advice.
Whatever happens, whatever accidents or tragedies may occur, above all else, you must return with that egg.
Basically, this translates to, leave your brother, he's not as useful.
At the same time as Team Zim strays off the beaten path so as to not arouse suspicion from passing travelers, Rayla gets more and more agitated when they find out about their food situation.
And I still have plenty. Still had plenty. Someone drank it all.
I think she's hangry.
I'm absolutely furious.
Up in the mountains, Callum and Rayla get into an argument, which causes an avalanche, which causes the egg to go over a bunch of water.
So they painstakingly get into a position where they can retrieve the egg from the middle of the frozen lake, with Callum about to hand over the egg to Rayla, where of all times she chooses now to explain the nature of her armbands. She says,
"If I don't kill Ezra, this whole thing will get tighter and tighter. Dude, just take the f***ing egg."
"Oh, for fuck."
Eventually, Ezra does manage to get the egg, but unfortunately, the egg is dying. They head to a nearby town to go get help, but on account of Rayla being a damn dirty knife ear, she has to think of some way to disguise herself. And here we get her alter ego,
Human Rayla!
a totally different and unique character.
They see this guy having some sort of demonstration in the square where he boasts about his sun-forged blade. Rayla tries to steal it, boys go to the vet. The vet reveals that he can't really help them because the egg is dying and he doesn't really deal with dragon eggs, so he directs them to this little girl named, I think her name is Alice, I don't know, she's not very important, and her dog Ava. The girl reveals that Ava lost her foot a few years back, but they went up the cursed caldera and the magic healer gave Ava her leg back.
At the same time,
Rayla tries the dagger, it doesn't work,
and she flees the scene. Shortly afterward, Rayla and the boys meet back up in the town square. While Rayla shares that she was unable to cut off her ribbon with the Sunforged blade, Callum and Ezrin are happy to tell Rayla that there's a magic healer who can possibly help the egg hatch. Unfortunately, the Sunforged blade guy from earlier told everybody else that Rayla was an elf, and they end up running both her and the boys out of town towards the cursed caldera.
At the same time, Claudia and Soren start tracking the boys, but they quickly run into a dead end, or should I say, a dead river.
Because they can't track the boys by conventional means, Claudia and Soren have to go on a trip to gather ingredients for a spell used for tracking. So Team Zim heads up the cursed caldera where they're joined by Elvis. In preparation for the monsters they'll face along the way, Callum devises a plan for how to deal with them. Lo and behold, they run into one of these monsters, a giant slug thing that screeches like a banshee. Since the monster catches them off guard when they try to execute the plan, they crack under the pressure like Shinji from Evangelion and fail miserably. Despite their failure, Rayla sees it in her to taunt the slug.
We would be a very unsatisfying snack!
Fuck you, asshole!
A few minutes later, they try again, where this time it succeeds. Mazel tov, congratulations.
It's near the end of the episode that Ezra reveals, oh no, there is no magical healer.
Back in Katalis, Viren visits Renan, who's starting to look like a meth head going through withdrawals, brings in the mirror, says, "Hey dude, what's this thing that I have here?" To which Renan replies, "Dude, that's the most evil thing you could have possibly imagined." To thank him for his help in identifying what exactly the mirror is, Viren decides to torture Renan. Nah, he's not that evil. He didn't do that. He just stuffed him in a coin.
It's at the start of the new episode that Ezrin reveals that he can talk to animals, much to the annoyance of his older brother.
Why would he lie?
Because he's a kid? Because it's fun? Because he's afraid to go up the mountain?
Meanwhile, Soren and Claudia head up to the tallest mountain in the country, Mount Kalik.
Mount Kalik. The tallest mountain in Katalis.
You might say it's the catalyst.
At the same time, the Dragang is chased by this giant spider that's reminiscent of most days in Australia. Eventually, they find out that the spider doesn't do anything, kind of like some people I know. Seeing that he was a massive jerk to his brother, Callum decides to apologize the only way he can, by putting on a stupid f***ing dance.
It's here where we meet Lou Jane, who is not a healer, but rather an illusionist. So she's a big fat phony. She reveals that the egg needs to hatch immediately, but it can only hatch in the eye of a storm. Callum gets an idea, breaks the primal stone, and Zim is born. Congratulations, we have our first marketable plushie of the fandom. So, in conclusion, Zim hatches, he bites off the band that nearly took Rayla's hand off, Soren and Claudia are able to track the boys from the top of Mount Kalik. All is well that ends. What the fuck? Hey there, if you're hearing this, then you've reached the end of the video. It's my first time making a video of this length and type, so if you have the time, please feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below. If you want me to make more videos like this, consider sharing, liking, and subbing to the channel. Sorry to be that kind of guy. If the video reaches any of these 3 figures, I'll create a second video for book 2. That's a promise. If not, I'll just probably nuke my channel or something, I don't know. Regardless, I hope you enjoyed this video, thanks for watching, and goodbye.